Hey, it's Kent over at Zamplo, and in today's video, we're going to be going over some tips, maybe it's just some best practices of getting the most out of one of Zamplo's features. What we're going to be highlighting today is the Polygon Tool and talking about three key advantages of why the Polygon Tool is such a great tool to be using. So first and foremost, before we dive into actually utilizing the Polygon Tool, in order to get the most out of it, what you need to really do is you need to have a saved query. And so a saved query is basically the criteria of what you're searching or filtering by. It's what's in your buy box. And so on my dashboard, you can see I already have 5 different saved queries right here. I'm going to select one and just kind of show you that on this page, we have all the different filters already pre-selected. So in this case, we're in Kern County, California, half an acre to 5 acres, empty lots only, kind of the standard things here. But down at the bottom, even after you go through all these filters, and some of the bigger counties, you're going to be left with a pretty high number of records. In this case, we're close to 15,000. So for some of you, that may be okay. That might be the target of what you're looking for. But for many of you, you're probably looking to have a specific number of records that you're sending out on a monthly basis to fit within your budget and your goals. And so best practice is to create a query and have that saved. And then that way you're going to be able to utilize the Polygon tool a lot more effectively. So segue into the Polygon tool. If we go up to the top search bar here, and you can search by APN, a street address, coordinates. In this case, I'm going to be a little bit more general. I'm going to say Kern County, California. And so it pops us into the county there. And as we can see, it's a really big county. Now, one thing to note is this county, as you would imagine, as with most counties, has multiple different markets and submarkets where a 2-acre parcel in California City is probably going to be valued a lot different than Tehachapi and a lot different than Bakersfield. So pretty obvious things because, of course, there's different topography, there's different kind of amenities nearby, and a lot of different variables that can affect the value of a parcel. So we'll come back to that in a moment in terms of why the Polygon can help with that. But the first thing that I want to do here is I'll move my face up to the top here because we'll need this area down in the bottom left. But I'm going to focus on a specific market or area in the county that I want to draw the polygon around rather than the entire county. So if I click on the little draw shape button in the top right, I can draw where I want to be. So I'm going to say, all right, let's do maybe something like this over here and finish my polygon. So I have my shape. I can even adjust it a little bit if I want, move it over. And then down at the bottom where I hit export parcels, when I do that, nothing gets exported right away. Rather, it gives me a count of how many parcels are within that shape that I just drew. So I can go down to laser focused, the name of this query here, and it runs it through all those filters that I had selected in my buy box to give me a count of how many of those parcels now fit my shape. So that's the first thing, kind of the first advantage that the Polygon tool allows is it allows you to have complete control over the volume and the number of records that you want. So if you're looking for a little bit less or a little bit more than this, you can cancel and go back and easily just come in and actually change the size of the polygon to kind of fit with what your needs and preferences are. So once you are happy with that though, the other advantage of using the polygon is it makes it really easy to track where you've been previously. It leaves little breadcrumbs of kind of where you've mailed or ran SMS campaigns. So if you come into here and hit save new shapes, and I'm going to go ahead and call this one maybe Kern October 28th, 2025, just something you're going to remember it by essentially. But by saving that shape, you're going to be able to pull it up at a later date, and in doing so, kind of keep track of where you've been, of course. So that's the second key advantage. So the third thing is going back to the fact that I identified when we got into this county, there's a lot of different submarkets and markets where values of parcels are going to differ, of course. So when we go to export parcels and we run it through our query, we're going to hit continue. And we get to this page where everything's filled out with the addition of the GeoJSON. I should mention that's the shape when you see it on this page. And down below at the bottom, when I go to export data, my last step is basically deciding what data I want to export. So if I come over here and I can just pick whatever column preset I want, but here I also get to use the custom pricing tool if I'm on the basic plan and higher. So if I go to the custom pricing tool, it's going to take me to this page where it pinpoints the area that I drew that polygon. So I'm being really specific on the area where I'm wanting to pull comps, and I can even shrink this a little bit. Right now I have a 4-mile radius, but I might say I'm looking for, a 3-mile radius. I'm going to get rid of the county comps and just leave Realtor and Zillow, and I'm going to load these listings. And then, so what's going to happen is it's going to highlight some of these comps nearby, and I get a lot more detailed into this page on other videos. So I'm not going to dive in too deep right now, but I can come through here and kind of remove any of the outliers of things that don't really fit the market or the type of parcel that's in my buy box that I'm mailing to. So the 40-acre parcel, that would be the first thing I get rid of there. And then this one right here, I would also take a look at it and see that, okay, it's a lot higher than the rest of these parcels. One thing is it's a smaller parcel, but when I have it hovered over here, I can see on the left which one it is in my list, and I can also see down on the map highlighted in yellow which one it is. So if I zoom in on the map, which is one of the first things I'd like to do, first thing that kind of jumps out is that this is in a more established residential neighborhood, paved roads, all of those sort of things. Where if I come down to this area that I'm mailing, yeah, there are some paved roads, but there's a lot of, dirt roads or things like that as well. And just, not as many homes, not as established of an area. So 2 different markets there. And another key thing, forget being a couple of miles away and that being a different market. Sometimes it's just on the other side of a road. Highline Road, for example, here is a good example, just because it's a kind of landmark in this county where utilities and electricity stop at Highline Road. So everything south of that doesn't have utilities. So you would want to make sure that when you're comping this area and you're being kind of like targeted with your approach, is that you remove the comps that are above Highline Road, because those wouldn't be valid comps to be using as it's part of a different market. And that kind of goes back to the third advantage of using the Polygon tools. It allows you to be a lot more targeted with where you are mailing to and with coming up with valuations to base your offer amounts on. Because even if I drew a polygon around the entire kind of area of Tehachapi, there's just different submarkets within Tehachapi. So the more focused you can be, the more accurate that those numbers are going to be, and the more confident that you can be with those offer amounts. So those are the 3 things that the Polygon tool helps with. Again, it's a way to keep control on the number of records that you want. It's a way to easily keep track of where you've been previously by saving the shapes. And it's also a way to be more targeted and accurate when you are using the comping tool to really know what the value of those sort of parcels would be at. So everybody have a great week. And as always, if you ever want to dive deeper into anything that I discuss in these videos, please don't hesitate to reach out.